Society has programmed us to follow a certain path. Now look where we're at. Today, more and more people are losing their jobs, savings, and even their homes. We want things to change, and it's up to us to take action.
I just spent the last several months interviewing about 50 of the nation's most successful young self-made multimillionaires and entrepreneur experts. And I realized that you can be, do, and have anything you want regardless of your circumstances. So I want you to join me on my journey here at the Yes Movie. If you want to live the life of your dreams, you can do it.
You can do anything.
We had no choice. We had to win.
It's showtime. It's showtime. You gotta play it cool. You gotta go on the field. You gotta perform. It's showtime. It's showtime. The only dimension of us that's more powerful than our circumstances and our environment is our imagination. I used to imagine myself living in a beautiful home. I used to work on Miami Beach with my mother. She was a domestic worker. She cleaned the homes of these wealthy families, and we ate the food left over from the families that she'd cooked for. But I had this vision, this imaginary life that I'd created for myself, that I had all the things that I desired. I saw myself, I believe in the old saying, act the way you want to be and soon you'll be the way you act. I was living in poverty, but it was not living in me. The imagination is that dimension of who we are that can transcend mental conditioning and our circumstances and gives us the possibility of reinventing ourselves and creating a life that we can be proud of.
Can everybody do that?
Yes, that's the greatest power that human beings have above the animals. An alligator can't be anything but an alligator. A tree can't be anything but a tree. But a human being, we have the option to be anything that we so desire.
Let's take the law of attraction, because, you know, The Secret is out there and gazillions of people are, you know, frothing at the mouth over this movie. And the interesting thing is, I love The Secret in many ways, okay? I have a lot of friends in there. Joe Vitale's in there, James Ray, you know, one of my colleagues, Bob Proctor. So there's people I know and like and respect in a movie, and I'm glad they made it because it has brought the law of attraction to millions of people that wouldn't have known about it otherwise.
Andrew Carnegie was the wealthiest man in the world. Carnegie introduced him to 500 of the world's most successful people, and he commissioned him to write the laws of achievement. So Napoleon Hill didn't go to a school teacher. Napoleon Hill went out to Edison and Ford and Wanamaker, people that had done great things, and he studied their life, and he found there was a golden thread running through their life. And he wrote it in a program, and then he condensed the program into this book, Think and Grow Rich. And I've been studying this now for many, many years, but that's where I started.
But it just shocks me now as I go around the world doing workshops and working with people, how many people come up to me and say, well, you know, I have watched The Secret 49 times and my Lamborghini still hasn't driven itself into my driveway. You know, what do I have to do to get the car to show off?
There's a very well-known book and a film that came out in recent times that talks about changing what we think, and that all we need to do to make us get more is to think it and will it into our universe. And frankly, I think that's a very dangerous concept. I think it's very dangerous to believe that all you've got to do is change your thinking. That's step one. That's kindergarten. That's the beginning.
What we teach in law of attraction is that when you get your vibration clear, the way shows up. Because everything is inside out. Business is inside your mind before it's outside. So if the young world can get clear what you want, then the path becomes easy.
Yes, the laws of attraction are good, but there's also something that's called the laws of action, without which you're not going to be able to attract prosperity in your life.
If I can see it inside, I can create it outside. That's what entrepreneurs are all about. They make something out of nothing and then sell it. They're artists.
Ideas are the proven capital of young rebel entrepreneurs. Breaking new ground is the best, fastest, and easiest way to create something the world has never seen before. After all, whoever thought you could make $1 million by transforming oversized beanbag chairs into a revolutionary new furniture company?
And if you haven't seen his sacks yet, you probably will. Here, Mr. Sean Nelson, the founder of Lovesack.
I get asked all the time how this thing started, and like so many silly entrepreneurial stories, it was an accident. You know, I was 18 years old, just graduated from high school, sitting on the couch watching TV. The idea just sort of popped in my head. How funny would it be to make the world's biggest beanbag chair? I got off the sofa, drove down, with my girlfriend to the fabric store, bought 14 yards of fabric, brought it home, cut it out like a baseball, because that seemed like a way to make like a sphere.
What did you put in there?
Well, originally I tried the beanbag beads because it was meant to, originally I was just thinking a big beanbag, but they, the first bag I dumped in, they blew all over the place and made a mess and stuck to things, and so I thought there must, classic entrepreneurial story, I guess, there must be a better way.
This is a key for everybody, I think, that they might look at something and say, I can do that, or I can do that better.
There's that great Mark Twain quote, all you need is ignorance and confidence, then success is sure, and I think I had both in spades, so. It really was a combination of being too dumb to know better that it was a really stupid idea to start a production company and then a distribution arm. And also, I think entrepreneurship as a mindset is really about looking at things and looking for inefficiencies and saying, hey, here's something that doesn't really work, and maybe I can steal ideas from here and brainstorm some other ideas from there with some friends and pull it together. There are some things that are sort of revolutionary ideas, but a lot of entrepreneurship is sort of evolutionary ideas.
My mom was a ballet teacher, so we had actually a vacant ballet studio by the time I was in college in our basement, which actually made it work, because I would roll out these huge lengths of fabric, cut them into figure eights, deliver them to my neighbor who sewed them up, and I'd load them into our old 1979 van, Dodge van with Lovesack spray painted on the side, deliver them, people one by one, and it was just, really raw.
Well, there's nothing raw about it today. In fact, Lovesack owns over 20 stores across the country and grosses more than $60 million a year. Not bad for a crazy idea by an 18-year-old who is jokingly known as the kid with the big sack.
An entrepreneur is someone who can see something and see beyond what it presents itself to be.
It was at the flagship store of this ultra-hip shoe company where I sat down with twin brothers and business partners, Shane and Sean Ward.
Basically, we went to undergrad together. I studied engineering, Shane studied design. We never thought we would get into the footwear industry at all. But after graduation, Shane got an offer to design shoes for Adidas. And it was an offer he couldn't refuse, to move out to Portland, have fun, designing shoes for some of the greatest athletes in the world. I thought to myself, I'm doing all these great shoes, I'm very successful, but I want a little bit more ownership.
and I want a little bit more flexibility with my schedule because I love to travel. So I decided to start a freelance design company so I could work from home and I could work for a multitude of brands. Next thing you know, I moved to New York to trade stocks on the stock market. Shane moved to New York to start his own freelance design company. When the market would close at 4 o'clock, I had nothing else to do. So I started helping Shane out with the freelance. We ended up designing shoes for Fila, Puma, Converse, Lugs, Grow Elastics, Merrell, a lot of great companies. And then after doing that for 2 years, you know, we had a great company, but we were designing great shoes and sending them off. There was no ownership after we designed these shoes. So we started to, you know, come up with a business plan. I started taking care of all the business and finance. Shane designed the shoes, and we started Detney back in 2003. I think with all entrepreneurs, you know, when you make that decision, when you jump in, you're in. You know, there's no looking back. So I was going to make sure I did everything in my power to make it successful. And I always knew, as I had 2 safety nets. One is I could always go back and get a job in the shoe industry. And 2, if that didn't work out, I could always go home and live with my mom and get my things together. So no, I was never nervous about it.
From the East Coast to the West Coast, I was intrigued that these companies were started based on simple ideas which they believed in.
We're here on Venice Beach, California, on the boardwalk. Everything out here is tattoo, body piercing. You got all sorts of people out here.
I've decided to call one of those people who actually came up with their first $1 million idea walking along this same boardwalk.
My first company started was I played with these sticks all the time, and I loved them. And I loved them so much that I made all sorts of different designs of them, of the ones that were really aerodynamically the best and also the prettiest. And so people just started asking me, oh, can you make me a set of those? And the KPBS Store of Knowledge, which had 350 locations at the time, came in and said, we love your sticks, and we love them so much better than any sets that we've ever seen. And this was in August, and they said, we want to sell your pairs over Christmas holiday this year. But here's the catch. We need 50,000 of them by October. I had never even heard of factoring or sourcing overseas, or I said, I can't do that.
I don't care if you're 18, 25, 32, or 80. You know, Thoreau said most people live lives of quiet desperation. The reason they do is they haven't had the intestinal fortitude, the courage to find something they enjoy to do, and to allow themselves to be insignificant before they become significant. You see, most people confuse insignificance with failure, okay? You can read any biography, you can watch your entire amazing movie documentary and realize that every single person featured went through a period of insignificance before they hit it.
And that day I said, I will never own another company where I have to manufacture a product in-house again. And by that point I realized I was a business owner. And I said, well, what kind of company do I want to do? And through a series of events, I'd heard of this guy that was making $10,000 a month selling t-shirts. And I thought, oh, God, that's like all the money in the world. Are you kidding me? So I said, I want to own a t-shirt company. And I started Anti-Establishment Clothing when I was 23 years old.
About an hour away from Venice Beach, I caught up with Dan Coldwell, better known to the rest of the world as Punk Ass. As the co-founder of the wildly successful mixed martial arts clothing and lifestyle brand, Tap Out, Punk Ass continues to make his own rules when it comes to building an empire.
I'd always been kind of like this small entrepreneur, you know, starting little businesses here and there. I had a little shaved ice store inside of this club. Raves used to be big back in the day, and I opened this like shaved ice store in there, and I was making a little bit of money here and there, and you know, just little tiny small things. And I always wanted to do something big. You have to find your niche. Back in '93, right after the first UFC, me and my partner, Charles, went to Hoist Gracie's school. Right after we saw the first UFC, we went down to Hoist Gracie's school in Torrance and we started training. We signed up the same day. And I was just passionate about this whole mixed martial arts thing, this UFC, this ultimate fighting. He came to me one day in like '97 and said that, you know what, I want to start this clothing company. What do you think? You know, you want to do this?
He's the buddy here.
Yeah, a friend of mine. And we were good friends. We were hanging out all the time and training together. And I was like, cool. Let's do it.
Punk ass may not fit into your idea of what a multi-million-dollar entrepreneur looks like, which just proves you don't have to wear a suit and tie or have an MBA from Harvard to make it big.
I think an entrepreneur is somebody who's just not mentally fit to work for somebody else. They march to the beat of a different drummer. Henry David Thoreau said, if a man doesn't march to the beat that you expect him to, let him march to the music that he hears, however measured or far apart. They are different and they are unique and they're uncommon. They're risk takers. I teach people, leap and grow your wings on the way down. They don't mind getting hurt. They don't mind getting hit because they know you're going to get hit anyhow. And you can get hit in the bleachers or on the field. So they say, let me go out on the field.
Because, it all comes back to, like, the Roman days when that's what ultimate fighting is kind of about, these fights that they have in the cage are all based around just two men just, hammering business. When we're in here, even though it's just business and we're out there just trying to make sales and do our thing, it's still all based around, going to work every day with that war mentality, like you just have to win.
Think about all the excuses you make up as to why you can't make it. Dr. Farah Gray is the internationally renowned business mogul, speaker, philanthropist, and best-selling author. He made his first million at the age of 14, selling his grandmother's pancake syrup, and hasn't looked back.
Well, I grew up in the projects on the south side of Chicago. And for me, I believe that comfort is the enemy of achievement. So growing up uncomfortable, and my mom had a heart attack. And I also am a strong believer that everybody needs a pivotal moment. And mine was when she had a heart attack and the doctor said that she may not live, and it was due to how we were living in the projects. So I said to myself one morning when I woke up, I'm not going to come home until I made enough money to help my mom pay the bills. So I went out and saw rocks in the streets and I painted them. And I would knock on people's doors, and I never called them rocks. I would always ask people, would you like to buy this? And people look at me as if to say, ain't that the rock that was in front of my door? And I was like, yeah, but see, now it can be used as bookends, paperweights, and door stoppers. So I learned that as an entrepreneur, you don't have to necessarily invent something that the world depends on, but you can reimagine something and reposition it.
We all have challenges. We all have problems. Things happen. The job of the entrepreneur is to be constantly solving problems. That's what they do. I mean, even in the launch of a business dream, you're launching it to solve some problem, hopefully, because that's where the need is for whatever it is that you have. And if there's no need, there's no market. So you're solving problems, and that's what an entrepreneur does.
The beauty of entrepreneurship and young entrepreneurs is that really entrepreneurship takes place in the lunchroom. I'll trade you my chocolate cookies for your chocolate milk. So we are already entrepreneurs, and a lot of people would say, do young people really think of entrepreneurship, or when should we start to think about it? I think that America should train entrepreneurs as soon as the young person has a thought or a want, something they want immediately. That's when they should be taught about money. And in this country, we don't talk about money. We don't teach our children about money. I still have friends that are my age and still can't tell you what their parents do.
What is money? What is it?
Money's an idea. It's an idea. It's a medium of exchange for other people's products or services. Do you know that there's hundreds of millions of dollars being transferred between Japan and New York in the middle of the night? Just vibrations going from one computer to another. Nobody ever sees the money. That's money, though. It's an idea. That's all money is.
It is money which makes possible our complex international society of business, trade, and travel.
In the past, a lemonade stand was the first business venture for many kids.
Is this where they're selling lemonade?
But today, more and more entrepreneurs are making it big on the internet, and they're younger than ever.
What's up, man? You the lemonade guy? I heard about you. They said you make the best lemonade in town. Is it true? Whoa, you got the garnishment too, man. There you go.
The power of the internet has made it possible for anyone to start a business and get rich. The majority of the top-earning websites in the world are run by brilliant men and women under the age of 30. At 20 years old, Sean Belnick's business chair website brought in $38 million. At 14 years old, Sean locked himself in his bedroom, and 3 days later, BizChair.com was born.
I would work with my dad, doing some, technical things with websites with him, and I would see the way he operated his business. And basically, he was a rep for furniture manufacturers. He would take the manufacturer's product to dealers and in order to get sales. So with the whole internet, I kind of thought that, if he's sitting in an office, taking orders for other people, why can't I be that other person, the one giving him the orders? And I basically took the product that, he worked with. I started the website, BizChair.com, and, we put it online and started getting orders. And over the years, it's just slowly grown from, 1 or 2 office chair orders a day. Now we're doing, 300-400 orders a day.
This is the bigger part of the warehouse. This is where a lot of the shipping and receiving happens. The warehouse is about 303,000 square feet. Okay. And the actual office is about 24,000, okay, which brings us up to about 327 total. So our competition really doesn't import from China. A lot of them focus on the pure dropship model just because it's easier for them.
Explain the dropship model.
Dropship business model is you basically put product online, a customer will come to your website, purchase it, you get the order, you then take that order and place it with the vendor who has a warehouse, anywhere in the U.S. or several warehouses, and the vendor ships directly to the customer.
So they do that in order to
You're basically a middleman with no inventory, but you're at the mercy of the vendor, and then it's very competitive because obviously anyone can do it. There's very little capital required, and there can be 50 websites with the same product, and if you're $1 cheaper, people are going to buy it from the cheapest person. Why would you spend extra when it's the exact same product from the exact same warehouse shipped?
If you have an idea, don't let anyone tell you you can't do it, because I've had people, other office furniture people who have been in the industry for years say, how does this guy do this? How's it possible? And it's just one of those things. If you have an idea, go for it. Go for it. Go for it.
Well, the great thing was about the internet at the time is nobody knew what color I was, they didn't know what race or ethnicity, what my background was. All they knew was my alias and that I could program computers.
From growing up in a house with a tin roof and no hot water, to learning computer programming at the local library after school, Ephraim Taylor started his first business venture at age 12, when he began making 3D video games and selling them to his friends in school for $10 a copy.
It all came about because at that time it was, games were very expensive. They were $49, $50, and because of a number of circumstances, I wasn't able to get my quota, I felt, the games in the house. So my mom jokingly said one day, Ephraim, why don't you figure out how to make your own video games? And through some application, reading a lot of books and a lot of time that I spent on the computer, I was able to do that. Then later on, I stay with the computers, started developing, websites and things like that. And I had what I call the entrepreneurial moment when you realize this is really what I want to do. I got paid $3,800 to do this website, and I realized at that moment in time that, wow, I'm doing pretty good, making, more than my dad because it's a 2-week assignment. But at that moment in time, I realized that I still was on the wrong side of the equation. I was still working for somebody else because the guys I built it for made $800,000. So they got $800,000, I got $3,800. Something was wrong with that equation. And for that moment on, I went on an entire quest to create my own company and pursuing my own dream. And so it really occurred to me when I hit high school, I had a multi-million-dollar enterprise, as far as internet company, I had 13 employees. My teacher had quit school to basically come work for us. And then we later went on to do a couple other things. And, since then, I've taken 2 companies public on the stock market before the age of 23. And now I'm the CEO of City Capital Corporation.
Well, I started really into paintball. I loved to play. I remember the night before I'd go play the next morning, I just couldn't sleep. And my family had an internet background. The internet was just starting to come into play, and had the idea, well, what if I could sell this stuff online? That would be great. I loved it. I mean, it was very easy for me to be passionate about the product. If I got into selling nuts and bolts, it probably wouldn't have done it for me. But because I was so interested in the product, and it got me so excited, and I liked the idea of the internet, and basically there was a potential out there. I didn't know. I mean, this could really take off, I thought.
What happens is, what is thinking? It's the process of evaluating the world, and we look out into infinite possibilities, and we begin to ask ourselves questions, and then answer our own questions. And we do this consistently all day long to the tune of 60,000 thoughts per day. What I find is key in creating your life by design and uncovering your purpose and uncovering your passion is to condition yourself to ask questions that cause you to move in the direction of the things that are most important in your life.
I think you have to be passionate about what you're doing, because there's enough other people out there who probably are, and if they have that natural energy, they can beat you at it. So if you find something you like, it's the old adage, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. And I think that's really what got me started and got me interested, and to be able to push through those times where it's not so good. But just the idea, really, that there could be no limitation on what I could make here was pretty exciting for me.
I'm 23 years old now, and I started when I was just 9 years old, and I'm from Roanoke, Virginia. However, I got my start when I was 8 years old, and I had just seen the movie Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. I wrote a letter to Donald Trump, and I didn't ask my parents for help, and I didn't even tell them I was doing this, because I was going to be embarrassed if I didn't hear back. So what I did was I said, "Dear Mr. Trump, my name is Cameron Johnson. I'm 8 years old. You probably haven't heard of me, obviously, but I'm coming up to New York City for the first time. I'm staying at your hotel, and the only thing I want to do is I want to see the suite where the movie was filmed." I never heard back from him, but when we got to the hotel, the receptionist leaned over and she said, "You must be Cameron." And she knew exactly who I was. And Mr. Trump had received my letter, and he had actually arranged for my parents and I to stay in the suite the entire time we were there. So that was my first taste at successful entrepreneurs, and I wanted to be just like Donald Trump after that.
After Cameron's first taste of the good life in the Big Apple and a brush with Donald Trump, he began his quest for success.
You're 9 years old when you start this greeting card type business, selling to your family and to your friends. How did you get the word out, and what was your motivation?
Sure, well, originally it started just as I printed some invitations. I showed them to my mom, and she said, "Wow, those are great. You can print the invitations to our holiday party we're having in a couple weeks." And I simply said, "Sure, if you pay me." So that's literally how I got my first order. And on the back of each of those 50 invitations, I said, "Printed by Cameron Johnson," just like Hallmark would do. And everyone that came to that party knew that Johnson's, 9-year-old son printed these invitations. That just led to more orders. Eventually, it led to a local news story in our hometown paper, and that just led to even more business, and it totally grew through word of mouth.
There's enough business for every young entrepreneur to make a fortune. That's what's so beautiful. We're in the most opportune time in human history.
So I started with literally $50, a 4th grade education, and just a computer and a printer. And I made several $1,000s over the next couple of years. And it wasn't until I was 12 when I started selling Beanie Babies over the internet that I started making real money. And when I was 12, I made $50,000 that year selling Beanie Babies just over the internet to people worldwide.
Cameron was offered $10 million in venture capital to grow his hot web company, CertificateSwap.com. He's also the author of You Call the Shots.
Well, to me, it was always a hobby, so I didn't do it for the business. I didn't do it for the money. The money was great, but what does 11 or 12-year-old do? He can't, he can't drive. I don't wear flashy clothes, any of those things. So it was always just for a hobby. I played sports growing up. I was in the Boy Scouts. I did all those things. But late at night, I wanted to run businesses, and I think it was because of that initial taste with Donald Trump, and then that inspired me to read books from Donald Trump, Michael Dell, Bill Gates, Richard Branson. I aspire to be just like them, and that's strictly my motivation.
There's so much information online for free or to be paid for that you'd almost have to have a blindfold on not to get it, use it, and succeed from it. It's not the lack of information that's out there that stops people. It's the drive. It's the motivation. It's wanting to succeed. It's being sick and tired of where you are and seeing a future for your family. It's unexcusable, in my opinion, if you want more free time in your life, more time mobility, It's there for you. With the technology these days, it is the ripest time ever for the entrepreneurial spirit.
With the electronic media, in other words, when business started, first you have agriculture and you do barter. Then you got the industrial age and we start printing money. Then we got the electronic age and computers, and now we're going into the nanotechnology, which is money is going to go to totally invisible. And so the young world is born plugged in. They're going to be able to be better entrepreneurs than ever, and we need more of them, not less of them.
The greatest part of the internet is that we live in a generation where I don't know isn't a sufficient answer, because we can go on the internet and we can find the answer to whatever it is our problem is. So no matter what the problem is we face, we can find the answer. So whether it's you're having a problem with your business, whether you don't know how to sell something on eBay, no matter what the problem is, you can find the answer on the internet. And that's exactly what I was doing at an early age. It definitely puts everyone on an equal playing field. It doesn't matter your educational background or your business experience. Everyone can compete equally.
Simple as walking up to a web company who we found and just said, hey, this is what we're doing, these are our shirts. We knew nothing about computers. I still pretty much know nothing about computers. And we started as a web company. I mean, we never sold retail for like 7 years. We didn't sell any retail. It's like, if I can do it, anybody can do it.
You're 18 and you're thinking, God, I could be a millionaire. If I'm talking to somebody who's 18, I tell them they can be a millionaire before they're 20. It used to take 5 years. Today it doesn't take anywhere near 5 years. You're dealing in a world market today. The internet's got you hooked up to everybody in the world. There's never been a greater opportunity than right now. Now, if I was saying that a month from now, it would still be true, because it's going to be even a greater opportunity a month from now. The way technology is moving us ahead, it's mind-boggling, the opportunities that are staring us in the face.
So you have a great idea. Where do you go from there? What's your first step?
This is where the office used to be.
And you look down on them out here?
Yeah, I look down, be up here high, these little low ceilings. And my desk was right here. We basically literally bought 12 shirts and sold them to buy 24 shirts and sold them to buy 48 shirts. And we were buying like maybe a dozen shirts at a time and getting like the worst deal ever. I think we were paying like 12 bucks a shirt or something and selling them for 20. I was paying fighters, you know, next to nothing at that time, because they weren't making a lot of money themselves. They were making, you know, $1,000, $1,500 to fight in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. So if I gave them an extra $300 or $400, they were like stoked. You know, they felt like they were getting a great deal. So, and for us, people were on pay-per-view watching the Ultimate Fighting Championship, and they're watching these guys come out in these big tap-out logos and these tap-out shorts, and they didn't realize I'm only paying these guys like $300 or $400 or $500. You know, it was just my regular paycheck I was paying them with, but it made us look big because they were seeing us on TV, so they figured, hey, we must have this big 30, 40,000 square foot, you know, facility, and we're just shipping out clothes. They didn't know where, you know, I mean, it's mouse in front of the flashlight again.
So with just a few bucks of his own money, Punk-Ass found a really cool and creative way to market his clothing company. Now he needed to figure out how to handle the orders.
Right off the bat, I wanted to do 24-hour answering service, so that you could call any day, anytime, because we were getting a lot of orders from outside the country, and you know they're on different time zones. So I wanted to make sure that we took phone calls any time of the day. I just hooked up with an answering service and gave them a list of our products, and they did it right through the website, which was great because it looked like we had this vision of being a big company from the outside looking in. As we started to get bigger, we just knocked down the wall and go into the next one. And then as we got bigger, we knocked down the wall and went to the next one, and then the next one, then we got the ones across the way, so it just kept growing like that. You have to know that if you want to be big, you got to think big. And, you know, sometimes you're worried because the money isn't there, but you got to believe in your mind that if you do it, the money will be there.
I do not have a college degree. I don't have a college education. I never went to college. I was an honor student. I was a really bright student in high school, but I did not go that route. I started my company, and I learned it totally organically. I learned it by messing up. I learned it by asking people questions. I knew nothing about t-shirts. I did not know what screen printing was. I did not know where to buy blank t-shirts. And that's like the most important thing that I want to impart on young entrepreneurs. Nobody knows what they're doing when they start. Nobody.
All throughout high school, I thought I wanted to do biotech and do sort of like lab research. And the summer before my senior year, or before my freshman year in college, I ended up with this internship at a great little biotech startup. And I was thrown into the lab and given way more responsibility than I should have been. And it was sort of exactly what I thought that I had wanted, and I just hated it. The guys there would tell jokes where the punchline would be like reverse transcriptase, and they'd be like wetting themselves, and I was just like, let me out of here. So I came into my freshman year at Yale with absolutely no idea what I wanted to do.
And I always caution people when they're starting out, don't think of the 120,000 steps that you have to take to get to where you're going. Just think of what you have to do today. I would just call up a chain store, and I would say, who's your t-shirt buyer? Because here's the deal. Big chain stores are actually, this is a really big secret, but they're actually, in a lot of cases, easier to sell to than a one-location mom-and-pop shop, because those people are buyers. That is their title. That's what they do all day, is buy stuff.
My printer told me, oh, you got to go to this trade show in Chicago called ASI, and you know, you can advertise it like, put your logo here, you know, like a coffee mug that has, you know, your company's name on it, or a t-shirt. Well, we were going to take our sacks there and say, you know, we can do the Red Bull sack or the, you know, Budweiser sack or whatever. Everyone loved the idea and no one bought anything.
With Far Out Foods, I started learning how to start a food company. Growing up poor, my grandmother used to make our syrup for us, so we couldn't afford syrup. So what I did was, cooking in the kitchen, I learned how to make a little maple syrup, and I added strawberry and vanilla. And then I got a book called From Kitchen to Market, because I believe reading is truly, truly, truly the foundation of entrepreneurship. So when I got that book, it showed me how to take my product literally from kitchen to market. And so what helped me was to learn what conferences and conventions to attend. I ended up attending the Food Marketing Institute in Chicago. It's called FMI. And it takes place every year, and I started networking and introducing myself and passing out my product sheets and my samples, and I did over 1.5 million in sales, and I was able to secure contracts, and I also ended up meeting the person and the company that would end up buying my food company, and it was Israeli Candy Company, so it worked out well.
People would say, you know, you didn't have the economic resources, I lacked the education. But I wasn't thinking about those as excuses. I looked at it as an opportunity. And so I went forward, and I created the plan. You know, I wrote my first real business plan, probably on the back of my history homework assignment for this company. And I recognized the need that was there for high school and college students to find jobs, because we look in the newspaper, you got to have a 4-year degree, you got to be available 9 to 5. Where are we stuck at 9 to 5? At school. So, and football practice. So where was a place that you can go find the higher paying job, something that's maybe oriented towards your career, but using the internet to do it? So we created something that was like Monster.com, no sense of reinventing the wheel, but for high school and college students. So we found a niche that we were good in, and our story is that who better knows how to market to their audience than a high school or college student themselves? So we promoted our company like a party. We printed up flyers, we're tagging cars in the parking lot, security guards were running us off at schools, because we didn't have money to run TV or Super Bowl ads. Right. And we really used press and media to our advantage. I mean, we sent out a press release that 2 high school students, you know, tried to help other students, and the newspaper started as a great story. So what that did is it got us plastered in the newspapers for 6 weeks straight, and we had 30,000 students slam into the website. And we're like, wow, we got all these students, but employers still aren't taking us serious enough to pay for jobs. But we managed to convince Pizza Hut to really become our first corporate client. And because we had that endorsement from a large Fortune 500 company, now everybody else wanted to sign on. So we had Pizza Hut, Papa John's, Citigroup, we had the military, and eventually, you know, 240 employers. And we just started talking to venture capitalists. They all said we were too young, didn't have enough management experience. So we had to raise it, you know, from angel capital, raise almost, you know, $750,000 in high school. For the company and the venture, and, you know, the rest is kind of just history.
Millions and millions of young entrepreneurs that are watching this footage right now, a lot of them might think, well, I just don't have the money to start that business. I've got this great idea. What do you say to someone like that?
Use your noggin, not money. Every business I've ever started, subsequently, I started with no money. I make sure I start with no money. I don't want to put a dime in. There's people, and again, there's different philosophies. But to the people who don't have money, what is your choice? I'm going to spend the next 6 years getting financing. Well, you're old and gray, maybe you get financed. By then, the business is useless and it's gone, right? You don't have to worry about getting financed. So, several things you do. Number one, start your business, but start it in a different way. Number two, start a different business that doesn't take any money. Number three, you know, if you want, you can go to the banks and all these angels and stuff, and you can pray. That's great. But let me give you a secret one that again, if it wasn't for this group here, young people getting started, I would never tell you for free. I'm going to give you one here. Pre-sell. Use what I use, customer financing. If you notice in my seminars, there's no such thing as a receivable. Nobody takes a seminar and then pays later. It doesn't happen, okay? So you can get customers. You can get, if you don't think, you go, well, hey, my customers aren't going to buy this. Not now. Guess what? If you can't sell it now, there's a good chance you can't sell it later either.
And that's the strategy you used to make your first million, and now you're using it to make tens of millions every single year consistently.
I never buy anything and sell it. I always sell it first.
JT Fox came to the U.S. from Canada with nothing. After falling into a 3-week depression, he realized that success was up to him.
3 weeks in bed, didn't get out of bed once, and one day I woke up at 3:30 in the morning. What do you think is on TV at 3:30 in the morning after I'd done a depression?
I've got a question for you. Who here wants to make more money in their life? Raise your hands if that's you.
You know, people are like, I made, you know, millions of dollars in 20 minutes, and you know, I said, I'm going to go to that. So I went to a free event, you know, and I remember saying, well, who cares what you did? What can you do for me? But I still signed up for the $3,000. At that point, I was completely broke, put it onto my credit card, took a 3-day seminar event, and to be honest, I learned it more in 3 days than I did in 3 years of college. But the issue and the problem was, after you go to a 3-day, where do you go next? What do you do? What roadmap do you take? And I didn't know where to go. And so I tried a lot of things, and it didn't work. You know, I always say that a lot of people teach the how, but it's really the why. I mean, you could follow a script all day long, but if you don't have that roadmap, or someone's going to be there to hold your hand, what are you to do? Because it's so easy to quit. I mean, quitting is one of the easiest things to do. Sticking with something, going through the good days and the bad days, that's a lot harder.
And after years of struggle, JT finally found a way to connect with his customers.
Those people, Louis, they don't want to move. They want to stay in their home. But I end up buying their home. And the idea is, you have to understand, here's a tip. When you deal with people, number one, always spend 90% of the time talking about anything and everything other than what you're dealing with. Always focus on them first. I bought and sold over 500 properties in the last 4 years. Bought and sold over 500 properties with no money, no credit, no experience, starting at the age of 23.
And you're how old now?
28, just turned.
Just turned 28.
There's a little gray hair right here to prove it, though.
Right.
Success is not a matter of chance. It is a matter of choice. And if you choose to be successful, you will be successful, but you're going to have to do it without listening to everybody else.
I started off as a magician and as a prestidigitator, card and coin tricks and illusions, you know, floating women and sawing people in half and such. And I realized during my young years that reality is created by validation. You give people enough validation and they see a new reality. Since perception is everything, and everything ultimately is trance, what happens is when you change your perception of things, you start changing the things you'll take action on. So first thing is you got to control your mind. Without that, no amount of tools, no amount of skill sets, no amount of instruction on how to do something will work, because unless you've got your mind tight, unless your programs are appropriate, you just won't follow through. And then step 3, obviously, is once we have mastered our own mind, once we have the proper tools, which the best way to get those tools is to find a mentor, find somebody who has done it, find a society of people who have come together with like mind. The third step is the hardest step. It's the one thing that nobody can teach. No instructor, no guru, no mentor, no organization can teach the ultimate thing that's necessary to create what you want, and that's the ability, just like you're doing right now with this program, to take action in the present moment. to take action on a consistent basis, even when it seems like it's not going anywhere, or even if we do our best job, what if nobody loves it? Or what if I go out and I write a book and nobody buys it? What if I do a TV show and nobody watches? What if I tell her I love her and she doesn't reciprocate? All those things are squelched by just taking an action and seeing what the result is. It may be that your first few fortunes don't turn out. I've lost way more money than most people in life will ever lose because I've played a way bigger game. I've gambled at higher stakes. And my belief is no risk, no goodies.
Were you born into all this?
Actually, no. I was born on a farm in Michigan that had no running water. We had no electricity. We had no phone. We were homeless twice. And my second home was a converted chicken coop. So no, this wasn't, it didn't affect me much. This wasn't, though, how we started. How we started was just realizing that you need to get by, and then going from there, this is a blessing. This is more than I ever dreamed I'd have.
Michael Simmons and Sheena Lindahl are co-founders of the Extreme Entrepreneurship Tour. They visit dozens of colleges each semester, spreading the word about what it takes to start a successful business.
And so what we're really focused on is getting people to actually start a business or think entrepreneurially and actually just take the action. When you're getting started, there's a quote that says that half the journey is starting. I think that's really true because when you're starting, that's when you're going to have the least number of contacts, the least amount of knowledge. Things are going to be the most cloudy, and you're going to have the least amount of resources. So, things are really hard. And, oftentimes we hear, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough time.
I would say probably one of the core things is stepping outside your comfort zone. So you've got this area where you're okay with the stuff that's going on. You understand how to do it. Life is okay, nothing to complain about. But stepping out of there where it feels not okay.
How do I know I graduate college, do I get a job after school? Do I, maybe follow that wacky dream that I thought of with my buddies in my basement? What do I do? Where do I go from here? Because, as you know, society tells us one thing, and then I got my dreams, my passion, my family, my friends. Where do I go from there?
Well, I believe, and I teach it in my new book called Between a Dream and a Job. Your job is here for most people, but their dream is over here. So I believe that in between your job and your dream, you've got to find a bridge to get you from where you are to where you really want to be. In order to get from your job to your dream, you got to find a dream job. And that dream job for me was at the University of South Florida, where I took a 2-year position doing for another company the same thing I ultimately wanted to do in my dream. See, that's what makes the dream job unique, okay? I found a company that would allow me to work for them and better their organization while practicing everything that I needed to do so that ultimately I could go work for myself. So that company paid me $40,000 a year. And then on nights and weekends, when I wasn't at the University of South Florida, I was working on my speaking dream. And after 2 years of doing that, so yeah, that took a lot of work. But after 2 years of doing that, I was able to build my dream and make my transition, and I stepped out on my speaking career full time. So what I would say is it kind of depends on where a person is. There's 3 kinds of jobs: dead-end jobs, stepping stone jobs, and dream jobs. I just described what the dream job is. That's the bridge that transitions you from job living to dream living. A stepping stone job is what most people had. I got my first job when I was 14 years old. I was a package executive at Winn-Dixie Stores. People hear that all the time in my keynotes, And I believe that every job should build on the one that came before it and take you in a direction of your ultimate dream. There's nothing wrong with jobs. I don't have a problem with jobs. Jobs are great boot camps and they're great training ground to get you to your dream. But what I don't believe people should do is settle for just a job. Because, of course, we know, we've been hearing it for years, Robert Kiyosaki says that a job stands for just over broke.
See, the problem in most jobs, people are doing just enough so they don't get fired, and the boss is paying them just enough so they don't quit. It's not a good environment. The entrepreneurial environment, that's the spiritual environment. That's where the best in herself is going to come out.
When I got out of school, I started to write a book for college kids. I just wanted to help kids land what I call their dream job. But I thought if I just write the book, that it will fly off the shelves. And what I learned quickly is, you can have a book and you can have a garage full of books because nobody's coming and beating down your door, because if they don't know about it, how are they going to buy it?
Sure.
Or I can go directly to the marketplace and start speaking on college campuses and speaking to college kids and then get them to buy the book. So I'm going to ask you one question, Louis. And how you answer this question, I'll tell you whether you're going to be out of business in 6 to 12 months. Tell me how you're going to get prospects to walk through that door and give you money. Because if you haven't figured that out first before you start your own business, you're going to face frustration, you're going to face anxiety, you're going to waste a whole lot of capital. You know, I like Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Great quote. Every battle is won before it is fought.
Las Vegas, where people take risks every day hoping to beat the odds and strike it rich. In my journey, I learned that young entrepreneurs take risks every day and aren't afraid to fail.
So nobody really remembers all the times that you, if we could say, failed. But people remember the time, wow, this guy's sharp.
Yeah, everybody always wants to read the success story. Nobody talks about, man, the emails that came across, you know, the guys tell you there's no way a kid can run this company, you know, there's no way he can do X, X, and X, and X, and all the no's, and you can't. Because it took a lot of time. We had a number of venture capitalists turn us down. We got denied more times than we actually applied. I don't know how that happened. People just sending us denial letters. Denied. But, you know, we kept going at it. We were so persistent because we really believed this was going to happen, and we had to make it happen. And we were patient, persistent, and we were passionate. Am I the brightest guy? No. Am I college educated? No. But how many people that are watching this video have a college degree, you know, went to some great school, probably went on scholarship, you know, have probably more money than I started with. They're probably wearing more than $250 in shoes and clothes and belts, you know, right now. But I didn't let any of those lacks, you know, actually stop me. I was just determined to get it, and I believed that it was actually going to happen.
Only thing about mistakes, don't make the same mistakes twice. That's stupid. Mistakes are learning experiences. Okay, if you start making the same mistakes over and over again, you're dumb. But you do want to make them once. You want to learn from it and exploit it and grow on that.
Mike Michalowicz is the founder of 3 multi-million-dollar companies that he started at a very young age. He's also the author of the best-selling book, The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur.
I've made horrendous mistakes. Big things. I've risked my house and almost lost it. I've done things that would destroy most businesses, but then I recognized it, I've thought about it, I fixed it, which is a great learning experience, and then I assure they never happen again. Who would want 50 bucks? Okay, pretty much everyone, right? All right, so who wants it? Okay, who wants it? You want it? Okay. Now let's think about it for a second, okay? A second ago, everyone said you want 50 bucks. You saw it in my hand in front of you. Everyone wanted it, but no one got their fucking ass out of the chair and took it, right? Everyone said you want to be a millionaire, but what are you doing to get it? This is the story that defines it all for entrepreneurialism. Henry Ford, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. So if you think you can, if you think you can't, you are right. And I swear to God to you, if that's the only thing you remember in your entire life, it's true and it works. And that's entrepreneurial success, actually that's life success.
People say no as if it's a habit. Some people just have to say no, but you have to realize, and that's part of me, I would never want to be you know, in the entertainment business because you hear no so much. You're too fat, you're too tall, you're too short, you're too this, you're too that, you're too much of a lot of things. And I've always said I wanted to control and own my own destiny. So that's why I chose entrepreneurship as my path, because yes, you hear no, but a lot of times you will hear that yes. And it's that yes and that door that opens up many other doors. But a lot of people get discouraged and don't realize that everything we want is on the other side of fear. So we end up fearing rejection and not embracing the possibility of that next door, that if you just knock on it, it may open up.
Listen, if your ideas just work 51% of the time, you're way ahead of the game. If I had all the money that I've spent on ideas that never saw the light of day, I would fill this room full of money. Believe me. I've spent a lot of money on ideas that didn't work, but I had fun trying to make them work. And when I found out it just wasn't going to work, I got on with a new idea.
I'll just settle for being average, for being mediocre. That's when you've got to bust through it. And that's when you've got to stick to it. You've got to take action, especially if you're a young entrepreneur. You have your whole life in front of you. Take the shot now, before maybe you're married with kids and you've got a mortgage and go for it. You know, I say you get a 50-50 chance of getting whatever you want in life if you go for it.
There's no failure, only feedback. So if you're doing something and the feedback you're getting is that it's not working, that's not failure. Who labeled that failure? You just got feedback that what you're doing isn't working. You've successfully found a way that doesn't work, and now you're empowered to make a new choice.
The losses that you will have, they're learning experiences. And so you have comeback power. A friend of mine, Willie Jolly, he said a setback is a setup for a comeback. You have comeback power. You can get knocked down, you can lay on the canvas and feel sorry for yourself and tell everybody who comes by, or you can say, what did I learn here? And how can I use this? How can I leverage this knowledge, this experience, and use this as a platform to catapult myself to the next level?
We are here at the beautiful Temple House, the largest house in South Beach, Florida, and we're here with the owner, serial entrepreneur, Mr. Dan Davidson.
If you look back in history and you say, you know, it was only a little over 100 years ago that people said, well, humans will never fly. Well, when the Wright brothers disproved that theory, now you've got people that pick up the phone and say, I need to be in London tomorrow. They jump on a plane and they're in London. People used to say when they would watch Star Trek TV show as an example, they'd say, well, gosh, those little things that you have in your pocket, you can talk to other people, those telephones. That'll never happen. Sure enough, a few years later, everybody's got cell phones. And now cell phones that have video and images and allow us to communicate in ways that we never thought possible. So what entrepreneurs have to realize is that life is constantly evolving and opportunities always exist. And if you stick with the status quo and you say, this is as good as things are ever going to get, you'll never advance. So the entrepreneurs that I've seen that are quite successful embrace the fact that where we are today is never as good as where we can be tomorrow. And they always find a way to take everything and make it better. And it's an innate characteristic.
Look around at your 5 closest friends. Chances are they're a lot like you. But in business, who you surround yourself with can either make or break you.
An entrepreneur is a person who says, I already have done it before they think of yes, I can.
You see, partners make wealth together. All those buildings you see here started as a result of partnerships. It wasn't one guy coming up and say, hey, I got a deal and you'll make X amount. It's about building long-term relationships. And when you build that relationship, it's a lot easier to bring a deal and say, you know what, as a matter of the partnership, we'll do it together. And that was the key.
If you're going to soar like an eagle, you cannot hang out with turkeys. And here's what that means. You got to make a decision. The cool thing about eagles is that eagles fly alone or they fly with other eagles, period. And I believe that all of us have to make that decision at some point. You know what? I'm an eagle. I might have some chicken surroundings right now, but I was born to soar.
No matter where my journey took me, I kept hearing about how important it is to make connections. Whether it's partners or mentors, they should all play a key role in your game plan.
Can't pick your family, I know, but you can pick your friends. Pick wisely. Start hanging out with people that you aspire to be. If there's something that you say, man, that guy, that woman, she's got it. I want that. Connect with that person, pursue that person for that reason.
You can have the talent, you can be the best technical guy out there, but you always got to have those guys behind you that have been there, done that. They're willing to sign on and say, yeah, I'll work with these guys, because that makes an investor feel comfortable that you got the best of the new school and old school. So if you can bring that credibility, it's just like setting up a board of advisors. You want to be able to bring that credibility for investors, stockholders, and shareholders. You want to be able to bring credibility to your venture. You want to have mentors that say, you know what, if you guys sign on and give these guys the money, we still got some babysitters, per se, to make sure everything goes right. Well, guys with experience be able to make it happen. I mean, my mentor pretty much opened up his Rolodex, called on his credibility. You know, one guy leads to another guy who leads to another guy. You know, birds of a feather flock together. So once you get one investor, they know some more.
We grew the company like crazy. You know, we grew it to dozens and dozens of stores and franchises. And somewhere shortly after that, I called that attorney and said, look, man, this thing is really taking off. I need some help. So I said, you know, would you come on and be my partner? And I thought he was going to laugh at me. I mean, he's this Georgetown educated attorney working for the biggest law firms in the country. And he actually said, yeah, let me think about it. And that was another kind of life lesson for me, was like, never ever be afraid to ask.
Every one of us is born the same, naked, helpless, and ignorant. Everybody, 100% of us. Oprah starts below scratch. I started below scratch. But what happens is you have a vision and you unfold it step by step by step, and pretty soon you do some pretty miraculous stuff. So first of all, you got to have a dream. Then you got to have a team, and I say a team is 2 individuals, and that looks like the power of 11. 1 and 1 equals 11. Jack and Mark are a team. Bob and Mark are a team. Art and I are a team. We got a lot of teams, and then the team can create the dream, and then you create MSIs, which I trademark, multiple sources of income.
Part of my marketing for the book was 1, media attention, which I got, 2, partnering with some best-selling authors to promote my book to their fan base, basically, and 3, do a lot of public speaking.
There's a young guy, Cameron Johnson, we see you promoted his book. I recently got an email on it. Yeah, absolutely. And these are people that reach out to other people with large mailing lists. How does somebody reach out to someone like that?
What's in it for them? See, a guy like Cameron, first of all, he's very eloquent. Secondly, he's got a lot of smarts. Thirdly, he's already set himself up to be on a lot of media. Fourthly, anybody who's going to be his joint venture partner is going to say, listen, that's great, and I want reciprocation. So I know when you hit it, you're going to send out for me again, aren't you?
You'd be surprised at how when you find someone that is getting the results that you want, and you call them with a heart of service and sincerity, and you're willing to serve, and you're like, this is what my intention is, and how can I support you, and you ask for guidance, again, with the heart of service, willing to contribute, the universe opens up doors for you. It opens up possibilities for you.
80% of success is showing up. You have to walk up to that person and say, I would like you. If it's a mentor, you say, I would like you to mentor me. You know, and a lot of people confuse a mentor with an investor. And a lot of people say, well, you know, maybe if I find a mentor, they can give me money. No, they give you something more valuable than money, is time.
I knew I wanted to work smarter and not harder. So I reached out to people who were within the first 3 or 5 years of their business, so they're still fresh as entrepreneurs, and just sent out emails to about 50 people I found in a book, you know, a trade show book. And luckily, 2 individuals ended up helping us out a lot, and we got mentors, and they basically said, you should do this, this is how you price you, this is how you find your manufacturer, this is how you market it, this is how you get your margins. And we really just asked a lot of questions, and we were blessed enough that these 2 people helped us out.
It's critical to surround yourself with experienced partners and mentors. And one piece of advice my father always told me was that the greatest investment you can make is in yourself. Turns out he was right.
You know, you talk about in your seminars how you had $30,000 invested in your business, and you took that, what was maybe supposed to go into the business, but you put it into yourself, into your education.
I went and wrote a business plan, put a business plan together, and took a loan for $30,000 to launch my first business. And the loan was supposed to go into marketing my business and doing all that. I took the loan and I applied it directly to my education instead, and so all I did was get a just go to tons of seminars and, you know, just learn and get new skills. And so, I would say that the secret to everything that I was able to achieve later was that I had poured so much into my own education. So I was light years beyond what a lot of other people were doing. And between the age of 18 and 24, that's a key time in your life where you really learn how to make your life work. And so I came out at 24 and really had no clue how to make my life work. So I got into a lot of credit card debt very, very quickly. I was about $30,000 just in consumer debt. At one point, I hit a low point where I was living in a house that they were tearing down while I was living there. I was microwaving buckets of water to bathe in and wash my hair because they had cut my gas. So it was really out of desperation more than anything else that I started studying personal development. I was buying the tapes, I was reading the books, and so I started studying billionaires.
Because of my poor upbringing, there's nothing that a billionaire who was handed hundreds of millions of dollars could teach me that would be useful in my life. Show me somebody who started with nothing. Show me an entrepreneur like Sir Richard Branson who started with nothing. Show me somebody who was scraping pennies together that became a multimillionaire, or even better still, a multi-billionaire. And I'll show you somebody that I would study.
Another book, maybe not, I hate to even say I've read this book, but shoot me for saying this, and it sound, yeah, it's, oh man, I can't believe I'm going to say this. I read, it was Martha Stewart's book, and I it was kind of a weird situation. I read the book, or I was listening to the book, right. And she has a part in there where she talks about her magazine pushing her company. I said, magazine, huh? I said, literally, I paused the book, I paused the tape, I was driving in my car on my way to LAX to go on a flight. I paused the book, and I had the number to a company called Bodyguard Magazine. I had talked to them before, and we took an ad out in their magazine, and it was called Bodyguard Magazine, but yet they were doing all MMA stuff in there.
Huh.
And so I called them up, and I just said, hey, Bob, how's it going? You know, why are you guys called Bodyguard Magazine? And he said, well, because initially we were kind of doing bodyguard segments and stuff, and then it kind of turned more into an MMA. I said, you know what? It should be called Tap Out Magazine.
Wow.
You should call this Tap Out Magazine. And he said, you know what? We were thinking the same thing. Can you come meet with us next week? I got back from the flight the next week. I met. 2 months later, we had Tap Out Magazine on the shelves of every Barnes & Nobles in the United States. You know, I mean, that book, I'm telling you, I literally happened like that. One idea, I paused it, called, done deal in 2 months.
Brett David's mentor was his father, the founder of Prestige Imports and Lamborghini Miami. While some kids that have their businesses handed to them on a silver platter squander it, Brett is determined to take his father's business to the next level.
He worked his entire life to get out of the ground. And I had to watch him be buried, and the reason was because of this. It was because of his hard work, and he had a dream. And all of a sudden, his hard work and never having play, he never enjoyed life. That doesn't mean that all of a sudden, because he passed, that I need to go cash in and I need to go play. I'm going to continue his dream. Because in his heart, and even though he wrote that in the will, in his heart, if I had the ability to, and he knew in some way that this was going to be a definite positive venture that I was going to get into, he would want me to stay. And he died because of this. So I'm not going to let all of a sudden sell this and cash in and me be the part of the LSC, the Lucky Sperm Club. It's not happening. I mean, I need to work for this business, and I need to work from what he started and created and get it to another level. He brought it to a plateau, but personally, between me and you, I think I had a lot of great ideas that I wanted to bring into it, but because of his old mentality, he never wanted to break to the second level. And this business would be a lot bigger than it is today. Between other franchises we could have acquired, if he just would have had that larger mindset, and he was kind of like a guided horse where he had blinders by his eyes and didn't want to see anything different. I'm going to bring it to another level, and I'm going to bring it because of him.
Take this word from Merlin the Wizard, and know it with thine heart. As thou travellest through life, never underestimate the power of very stupid people in large numbers. Unless you are one of those unfortunate blokes, in which case, ignorance is bliss.
One person who refuses to leave her fate to a fortune teller is Ellie Drake, a woman clearly in control of her destiny. A successful businesswoman by her 20s, Ellie became the inspirational leader of the community of entrepreneurs, Braveheart Women. So Ellie, how do you monetize your dream?
Inspiration, purpose, strategy, implementation. So your dream is your inspiration and your purpose. How you monetize it is by learning how to have better strategies and a better way for you to implement. There's so many people in the world that have these big dreams, and if you ask them, that's a great idea, what's your strategy for implementation? They'll go, what do you mean? So instead of having so many dreams, I'd rather have one dream to begin with and say, okay, this is my dream. Now I want as many strategies to implement this dream as I go forward.
Yeah, you have to encourage and inspire yourself and remind yourself that any and everything is possible, because as my grandmother always says, wake up every morning and say, why not me? If you want millions, if you want a mansion, if you want to... She told me this when I was about 7 years old. She said, wake up every morning and say, why not me?
First and foremost, if you've started your own business already, you're on track. Okay, you're already on track for success. You know, Millionaire Next Door quoted this statistic. 74% of the world's millionaires, their own business. So if you want to be a millionaire, 3 out of 4 of them are created through their own business. Now, will you do well in your first business? Probably not. You'll probably mess up your first business. So those first few businesses will be your apprenticeship. They'll also start to teach you what to look for in a business that you can take global or a business you can take national. Because one of the keys to ultimate business success is scalability. I didn't want to create a franchise that would work in Brisbane, Australia, where I was born. I wanted to create a franchise that'll work in Nigeria, that'll work in Colombia, that'll work in China, that'll work in Russia, that'll work in... You know, it's got to be something that I can take global.
Do you find that most people set up their business to run the business for the rest of their life and be an employee, or do they set it up to sell it and make money?
What do you think? As you know, they set it up as a job. Most people don't have a business, they have a job. Again, they set it up and they have to be there. It means you got a job. You don't want that. You can start off like that. That is the way most people start. Of course, you're doing everything. You know, when I first started my business, it says, Harv, what do you do? I'm the janitor. I'm the janitor. I'm also the president, you know, but I do everything. Yeah, hello, that's the real world. But quickly, you have to start, and here's the key word. Everybody write this down. Systemize. You must begin to systemize your business so that the systems work instead of you, or you are stuck for the rest of your life, okay? And that means systemize in other people, in other technologies that work instead of you. If you have to be there on an ongoing basis for your business to run, you don't have a business, you have a job. And here's the worst part. You will never be able to sell the thing. You see, it's very important to realize for young people that there are cash-rich people, cash-rich investors, cash-rich investor funds, and cash-rich corporations that are looking for you. They need you as much as you need them. They are looking for money machines. That means a machine that prints money. What's that? That's a business that's systemized and can work without you. And if you have to be there for that machine to work, you can't be bought. You don't even have a system. You've got to systemize yourself out of the business.
I wanted to sell a business as soon as I became tired of it. So many people have jobs that they absolutely hate, you know, and they are not willing to take the risk to start a business. But likewise, there's so many entrepreneurs that actually hate their business because now they've become an employee, you know, and they're working 60 hours a week. They're not having fun anymore. The company may or may not be making money. It doesn't matter how much money it's making if you're not having fun. So what I would do is I basically got tired, you know, and you can also just look 12 businesses from the ages of 9 to 21. It's about a business a year. You know, I've got somewhat of a problem. I'm addicted to starting businesses, and when I would become tired of it, I'd simply come up with a new idea, sell that business, use the capital, you know, invest it in the next business, and everything would be a stepping stone.
And that's what everybody who's watching this movie has to know, that, you know, free enterprise is where prosperity lives. That's what's made this country great.
There's a new trend underway called social entrepreneurship, where the riches come from making a difference in people's lives and the world.
I'm always of the mindset, if I'm going to be an entrepreneur, of any kind of entrepreneur, I'm going to be a social entrepreneur. So I'm going to have a social aspect to my entrepreneurship. And I'm always concerned about justice and freedom and the protection of our government, of our rights, of our liberties and our pursuits, and everybody having a fair opportunity. And I saw some things in my community and on the national scale that bothered me. So I started a company called Justice Incorporated, a little company that was just aimed towards trying to find justice in America.
And how old were you at the time?
I was about 12 or 13. Everyone on this green earth should be attempting to have a legacy, should be attempting to make a positive impact on this world, whether it be through social entrepreneurship or just being the average Joe who does something great and is a great person. We should all be striving to be that legacy moment. Because if we're not living for legacy, we're living for failure.
I haven't met a lot of people without arms and legs. I've met a few, but I haven't met a lot. Yet a lot of people can relate to my life, seeing that all the odds are against me, that maybe I'm not perfect in the world's eyes, that, you know what, it's hard, but the power of persistence and the right perspective in life, that's a foundation of knowing who you are and then where are you going and who do you want to be.
Obviously, as you get older, the view of your life changes. You can have arms and legs, but if your question is, why am I here? When you lack purpose to live,
cuando tienes un propósito de vida,
you lack power to live.
Guys, I used to think that one day if I could wake up with arms and legs and see, you know, just everybody that I could to tell them, look, you know, there is hope in life and you know, what a miracle that would be. I mean, you know, many people love to believe in miracles. But one of the things I realized in my life is that I am the miracle the way that I am. And you are the miracle the way that you are. And you're here for a reason. Don't give up. Don't put limits on yourself. Live life one day at a time. And don't forget to smile, because you can always be thankful.
You should do what you want to do, regardless of what society tells you, your circumstances tell you, your family, your friends. If you've got an idea and you want to see it from here out to here, and you have everyone in your life telling you that you shouldn't do it, well, either you shouldn't do it, or if you're really passionate about creating something and being a leader and stepping up and seeing your vision come to fruition, you're on the right path. You need to find what it is that really drives you. What do you get excited about? And what is motivating? You know, if your parents want you to be a CPA and you want to be a rock star, I mean, I hate to say that, you know, there may be more money being a rock star, but really, life's short. We're all going to be dead next number of years. So do something that gets you excited, that you're passionate about, that you can get into. And money, it may not necessarily be about money, but as long as you're going after that dream and what's important to you, that's what's important.
I want to recommend that you become very quiet and ask yourself, what do you really love to do? And then make up your mind you're going to do it.
According to statistics, I'm supposed to either be in prison or dead, but I'm not, based on where I grew up. So any and everything is possible when you believe in the power of who you are, when you believe that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things unseen. So if you don't know where you want to go as an entrepreneur, continue to forge ahead, believing in your product, believing in your idea, knowing that you will be successful. Because as I always say, it's amazing what you can accomplish when you don't know what you can't do yet.
But the biggest thing that separated me from all these people that I meet was at the age of 18 years old. I got off the sofa, I drove to the fabric store, I bought the fabric, you know, it cost me $50, but at 18, that's a lot of money. But I did it, and I, you know, sewed it up, stuffed it, and, you know, a decade later, it's an international company.
Well, if there's one thing I can tell you, that is to quit making excuses. You know, time, education, lack of money, we all look for excuses. What we really need to look for is the first step.
Because life does not give us what we want. Life gives us what we deserve. And if you think you deserve more and you want to take your life to the next level, then you need to empower yourself.
Time to take action. It's not 10 minutes from now. It's not a year from, it's now. It is this second, this moment. It's when you got to take action.
Live the limitless life and go after your dreams at all costs. And don't be somebody that talks about it. Don't be somebody that dreams about it. Be somebody who goes out and does about it.
One step in the right direction is worth 100 years of thinking about it. Get in the game. Start today. Start now.
The Yes movie is really just a starting point. What we're creating here is even larger than a movie. We're creating a global society of young entrepreneurs. I want my life to become an example of what's possible for a young entrepreneur. I waited till I was 30 years old to make this movie. Please don't wait. Do it now. You can have everything that you want. You just must take action.
I want some of that.
It's showtime. It's showtime. You gotta play it cool. You gotta go on the field. You gotta perform.
We had no choice. We had to win.
It's showtime. It's showtime.
My time is more valuable working on my business.
You can do anything.
You gotta go on the field. You gotta perform.
You can do it.
We had no choice. We had to win.
You gotta play it cool. It's showtime. Showtime.
Nobody was ever able to dictate my decision or take away my happiness.
It's showtime. You gotta play it cool. You gotta perform. It's showtime.
Now is the time to say yes to your success.
Vision Productions. Your vision is only the beginning.